Welcome back. We're on Unit 4. We're working with polynomials. The section title we're talking about in this video is 4.2, Simplifying Using FOIL. And we actually use FOIL as an acronym, so please put F.O.L. Okay, the pizzazz pages that will work here are those of 69 through 70. And we're going to start right into some vocab. Reminding ourselves that we know a polynomial is an expression in a sort, and it's an expression which is made up of one or more terms. And we know terms are simplified expressions, so that concept of maybe 3x is a term. Another item that is a term is 9. Another item that is a term is 14y squared. Okay, these are all different terms. And if I wasn't to use the term like this, if I am adding or subtracting these terms like this, this would be a polynomial. In fact, it would be a 3-term polynomial because I have 3 specific terms. We can call a 3-term polynomial a trinomial, and we can call a 2-term, so if I was to get rid of this and say we were subtracting 3x minus 9, I could say this is a binomial. So these are just some pieces to think about. You do not need to write those down. These are just specific terms. Okay, moving on from there, we're going to talk about some binomials. So the binomial, again, is where we have a polynomial that has 2 terms. And the last piece is the FOIL method, which we are discussing here, is the process to multiply 2 binomials in order to simplify. So we're looking at taking 2 specific binomials, so that could be the concept of x plus 3 and x minus 9. And how would I go about multiplying these? So this is just an example of multiplying 2 monomials. That's the question that we're posed, and we're asking ourselves, how would we go about simplifying this? So let's take a look at the method. Again, we're talking about the FOIL method, and this stands for something. So F stands for front. The O is standing for the outside, the I stands for the inside, and the L, the last. So we're going to take a look at the concept. I'm going to start off with the binomial of x plus 3 multiplied by the binomial of x minus 7. Now I know I perhaps went a little fast. Please be sure to pause and catch up with us as you need. X plus 3 is our first binomial, and the FOIL method tells me that I want to multiply the front terms together. So x times x. The O stands for the outside term, so the x times the 7. You can see that in the dark purple. And in fact, we're going to add the negative 7 because when we subtract 7, it's really like adding a negative 7. And we're also going to add the 3 times the x. That's the inside terms that we're multiplying. So again, 3x for those inside terms, and the last terms are the 3 and the negative 7. So as you can see, this spells out FOIL, so it's a nice acronym to help you remember which terms to multiply and how to go about simplifying. So this is a method that we use to distribute. So if I get rid of these extraneous letters, we can simplify this even further to have x squared plus negative 7x plus 3x minus 21. Now, I am almost done with my simplification of this binomial multiplied by another binomial, but I can combine some terms together. So box in those terms that we can consider like terms, the negative 7x and the 3x. Putting those together, I get a negative 4x. So my total and complete answer is x squared minus 4x minus 21. Now I've put a circle or a box around that in gold, if you will. So let's take a look at a more formalized version of this method. So the first piece is the general idea we want to use is to distributing multiple terms. So we're familiar with distributing one specific term, like in the idea of 3 being distributed to x plus 14y minus, 7. And we're familiar with being able to distribute this to all of the terms. So the 3 would go here to the x and be also multiplied by the 14y and also be multiplied by the negative 7x. We've done that. That's part of our distributive property that we've previously done in Unit 2. So now we're at this point where, okay, how do I do this when I have more than one term I need to distribute? Specifically to a binomial, I'm going to start by distributing, which again is multiplication, the front terms. So I'm going to multiply the front terms together and then multiply, or rather distribute, the outside terms together. And I do the multiplication as I go. I don't draw the arrows for all of it and wait. I actually do the multiplication as I walk through. Then I'm going to distribute and multiply the terms on the inside. And the following, as you can probably guess, is to distribute the last terms, or the terms that are on the very last positions of the binomials. Okay, so let's take another look at an example. So working with those front terms, I have x times x, which is going to give me x squared, and x times 4, which should give me a positive 4x. Then I'll take the negative 10 and multiply by x, giving me negative 10x, and negative 10 times 4 to give myself negative 40. I can combine the 4x and the negative 10x. When I put the negative 10 and the positive 4 together, I get a 6x. So in total, I'll get x squared minus 6x minus 40. Again, I've circled the most simplified version in my gold color here. So the last step that we need to indicate on this, which is the most important step I would say, is to combine any like terms. And then to box in our answer. So those are some pieces that are important for us to make sure that we go through this process and get the completely simplified version. Again, this whole concept is to simplify. That's the whole goal. We're trying to take a multiplication of a binomial times a binomial and kind of work that out. We've got a couple more examples for you, so please flip over to the page and we're going to talk about the general idea. So we can generalize this beyond a binomial times a binomial, because the FOIL process, the concept of front, outside, inside, and last, only works for binomials. If we generalize, we can indicate that we're going to want to distribute. And we're distributing the first term to all the terms in the second polynomial. And we would go ahead and do that same process. We'd repeat that same process with the second term being multiplied to all of the terms in the second polynomial. And so far and so forth. So similarly, in this case, I have a binomial that is multiplied by a trinomial, because there's 3 terms in the second polynomial. And when I do this multiplication of a binomial times a trinomial, I am allowed to indicate that I'm going to multiply a, in this case, my first term, to the x, the negative y, and the z. And then follow that for the second term, so the b, and multiply b by the x, the negative y, and the z. Always taking a look to see if I can combine any like terms and box in my answer. So another example that might be slightly more complicated because it has a coefficient with the term is 3x minus 1 as a binomial multiplied by x minus 8 as the second binomial. Again, we're focusing here on the FOIL method, so we're going to simply focus on binomial times binomial. Starting off with 3x times x, giving me 3x squared, and then 3x times negative 8, giving me negative 24x. I can go ahead for that next term, that was the f and then the o. Now I'm going to do the inside term, so negative 1 times x, giving me negative x, and the L for that negative 1 and the negative 8. Again, we can think of this as a distribution of the first term to all the others and the second term to all the others. Moving ahead, I should clarify that all the others to the other polynomial. So we're not actually multiplying, so I'm going to be really specific here. We are not ever multiplying these terms together, okay? That does not happen. And we are not ever multiplying these terms together. That does not happen, okay? So just being super specific. They have to be multiplying to the other polynomial. Here I've got some like terms, the x's, so negative 24x and negative x. Putting those together, I get 3x squared minus 25x plus 8. Excellent. So taking a look at this, I'd like you to try a couple on your own and then finish another one. So the first try on your own is the binomial x plus 2, right here, and the binomial x minus 5. I'd like you to multiply those using that FOIL method. Again, we're talking about front, outside, inside, last. And another try on your own, please. This has the binomial of negative y plus 1 and the second binomial of y plus 3. Be particularly careful because in this particular session we have a negative y, so please check your negatives. And I'd like you to finish as I start this FOIL process here of 6x minus 3y times x plus 5y. So the two binomials, again, this is our binomial and this is our second binomial. Again, binomial means that there are two terms within them. And we're going to take a look and start off to say 6x times x to give myself that 6x squared. Again, that's that first terms, that front terms, and then the 30xy comes from the 6x and the 5y being multiplied. Please finish by completing the inside as well as the multiplication to the last terms. So fill in those squiggly blanks, check to see if there are any like terms, and move from there. I really appreciate your efforts as we've gone through this. The notes should be sound, and let me know if there are additional questions in class or if I've made any mistakes. Appreciate all the time. Thanks. Bye.